Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Forge. Whether you're sitting at your desk, driving to work, or you're in some other far-off corner of the old world, this is SquareHammer.
And tonight, Blue and I are joined by two internet celebrities. And I guess maybe not just internet celebrities, but maybe celebrities in real life as far as it relates to wargaming and miniatures.
No.
Oh no.
So we've got Steve and Cullen from MiniWarGaming, and obviously Steve runs his own Facebook. I'm sorry, not his own Facebook, his own YouTube channel called Mountain Miniatures Gaming. And we're just gonna kind of sit and chat for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it takes.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah. So we're gonna sit and get real comfortable with one another.
Nice.
Oh boy.
So Steve and Cullen, I am super interested to hear what you guys think of GW's announcement for Warhammer: The Old World.
Wow. Okay, so that was an interesting one because I haven't gone back to watch the video that we created.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
It's depressing.
Well,
It's
that's
really
exactly
Made
the
me
point.
sad.
I feel like I got really excited and really disappointed.
I remember walking around to talk to everybody, and the mood just got more and more depressing as we realized the 3 years is just it's too far off to get excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
And without any real information other than it's coming back, it's so vague into what we're actually to expect in this 3 years that it definitely threw off my mood for like at least half the day.
Well, absolutely, I think it was almost cruel. Why bother saying there's a logo and nothing more?
So was the depressing tone of everybody in the office up there just purely related to the time period, the time frame, like the lead time we talked about?
Absolutely. I mean, okay, look, an announcement for a game that it's our favorite game over here, for Colin and I anyway.
For sure.
Having it taken away from us, we've been joking forever that it'll come back. And then having that announcement of an announcement was like I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like Disneyland the next day. This announcement, what's it going to be? What could it be? But then when we get it, I was like, oh, it's actually going to be what we want. But wait,
But then we
3
read
years.
further, and it really gives no. After that whole Square base tease, it has nothing to do. It says nothing about Square bases or anything of what it could even be, other than just the name.
I'm actually excited for that.
Do you really think that I mean, the fantasy community, right, is generally 25 to 35 and older.
Yep.
Do you really think that they'd upset a whole bunch of grognards like us by changing away from Square bases?
Yes.
I hope not. If they did, then again, like that was the most cruel way to treat us.
I don't think Square bases matter. Let me explain. The bases of the miniature don't really matter. If it's gonna be a rank and flank game, they're gonna most likely be on a square type of tray.
Right.
So round slots in a square tray. Like we've all played. Well, Colin and I have played.
A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, which is exactly that. It's a rank and
definitely.
flank game with round bases on the miniatures, and it works absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember when we first tried that game, we were a little hesitant, but once we gave it a try, it was actually a lot of fun, and the whole base mechanism really works well for it.
Yeah, and everything does look better on round. It's painful to say, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks better if it's by itself. You know, if you just pull one miniature off and put it down somewhere, it does look better on a circle. I grant you that.
Yeah.
Oh, for
But-
sure.
I think ranking up, I think just if everything's on circles, everything can't get as close together. You can't get that tight formation of like a spear wall or sorts.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to accept that one though. You're right. They're not gonna be as tight. They're not gonna be as close. I mean, you can get them. No, you're not gonna get them as tight as on squares.
Nowhere.
But like from a person who plays the game regularly or did, that was the worst part about fantasy. Ranking up your guys and then cleaning them up afterwards.
Cleaning up.
So I'm looking forward to playing Song of Ice and Fire. You rank them up real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's some boons to going on a round basis. I'm just trying to be excited.
As long as, I mean, personally for me, I would love them to stay on squares, obviously, but I'm not as adverse to round bases in movement trays like that. So long as the feel of the game stays generally the same and the complexity of the rules
Right.
That's a big
stays
thing.
the same.
Exactly.
I mean, the way that I always think about it is like you can really do pretty much anything in Warhammer Fantasy, right? Like a rule exists somewhere in that 500 pages that allows you to do something. And the simplicity of Age of Sigmar doesn't do it for me. Like, and I've played Age of Sigmar, and I think it's a fine game on itself, but it's not ever going to be a replacement for me personally when you compare it to fantasy.
So the Sigmar thing is an interesting one. I've recently been more open about my thoughts on the game, and I can sum it up very simply. I have fun every time I play the game, or just about every time I play the game, but it's not the game that I love. It's not the tactical game that I love. It's never going to be my favorite game. But like most miniature games, they're all pretty good. They're fun.
Yeah, I think I was telling you the other night, the way that I think of Age of Sigmar is it's a list building game that, you take your army, you build your list with a specific strategy in mind, and
Yep.
you throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks against your enemy's list.
Well,
That's
the way I really like to judge a game is if my back's against the wall and if I just run everything forward and I somehow can pull out a victory from doing that, I don't like the game. Whereas in Warhammer Fantasy, you can have a inferior list against a good list and you can outplay your opponent. Absolutely.
For
The
sure.
swinginess of fantasy, I find, is one of the biggest parts about it. It's the part I like and hate the most.
You play Skaven.
But it's I find that you can deploy and at the beginning of the game be like, oh, I'm screwed, and 2 turns later somehow be like, I'm winning and I don't know how, but it worked.
That actually just happened in a battle report that Kyle and I just recorded. We were playing High Elves and Dark Elves, and which one is it where things get deployed in random segments of your deployment zone?
Dawn Attack.
Dawn Attack, yeah. So we played Dawn Attack, and all of my good heavy hitting units were all deployed to the right, all forced to the right flank. And I was like, oh, this looks terrible because there was a big building in my way and I had to move around with chariots and big trays and I couldn't get around it. But I slowly came back and I turned it into a game. So I was
You
happy.
have to play the movement phase, right? And that's
Yep.
why I love the game.
Mm-hmm. But
Cullen
Age of
recently-
Sigmar movement's so easy. You can just move in any direction. It's like 40K in terms of movement. You can
Right.
move in any direction.
Well, it's 40K without all the shooting, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. It's too simple for me, which is
Thank
that's all.
Well,
I want to
one-
bang on it, but
I've played a couple games Age of Sigmar. It was fun for the game, but yeah, as y'all have both expressed that, or y'all three have both expressed, it doesn't replace fantasy.
right.
Oh yeah.
One of the biggest things for me was when I played Age of Sigmar and I was learning was charging. So I don't actually declare a unit I charge. I just roll the dice,
Right.
see the distance, and then I'm like, what's within that distance? Which that takes a little immersion out for me because it's not like I'm running towards one direction and like have to make it there. I can run in any direction depending on my movement. So
See, the one thing that I personally struggle with is why are we even comparing the two? Like I know why. It's because
True.
one game replaced the
Yeah.
other, but like it's completely different games altogether. If Games Workshop, I don't know, 4 years ago when that game came out, had just put out Age of Sigmar, and didn't talk about replacing fantasy or just put it out and did not allow you to use the old fantasy miniatures, I don't think there would be a big a divide.
I mean,
in
they
the
still would have
community.
come out with those 4 pages of
No,
nothing with
I
it.
had no problems. Those are fine. I think if they go back in time 4 years, re-release Age of Sigmar, and it just has those two armies, Sigmarites and
Bloodbound?
Bloodbound. And then a few months later, like, hey, if you guys want to use your fantasy miniatures, here's a way of doing it. But making people think it was a successor to Warhammer Fantasy by releasing the rules for all their armies before the game was even out made people think it was a successor. I think that was a mistake.
I agree. They could have played it much better. They could have not blown up the world and just put in the new bases or in the new models, just put squares and circles. And if you wanted to keep playing Warhammer Fantasy, great. And I think it would be pretty easy for them to add release like PDFs online. If for a new Age of Sigmar model that you also wanted to use in Fantasy, they could just release a little one-page PDF of the rules and what it would do in Warhammer Fantasy compared to Age of Sigmar.
Exactly.
Yeah, they could have done that,
Even-
and that would have been the smart play. I agree.
Even taking everything down from their website from Fantasy, like the old FAQs that are now decently hard to come by, it's just another thing that makes it hard to try to continue this game.
But like we're all talking with hindsight here, right? I don't think anybody at Games Workshop expected the backlash within with the fantasy community. I mean,
Right.
they probably thought it was, oh, they're gonna love this. Is the right idea. Because I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna be a little arrogant for a second and talk about the fantasy community. It was divided amongst two types of people: the competitive players who knew the game, and everybody else who played in the basement. And they didn't really know the rules that well. Like fantasy players, the community weren't great at the rules, mostly because the game was very convoluted. I think when Games Workshop amidst that realized that how complicated the game is, they tried to simplify it and they overdid it.
Oh, for sure.
I think that the, call it hostility for lack of a better word, between the fantasy community and the Age of Sigmar community. Well, not just between the communities, but the Warhammer Fantasy community compared to Games Workshop is not just that they took the game and they changed it to Age of Sigmar. I think it was kind of like the unceremonious
Sweeping it under the rug.
I mean, like, if they had planned a year in advance that they were going to move from Warhammer Fantasy to Age of Sigmar, that would have been a completely different story.
But hold on. I gotta push back on that. They did. They absolutely did.
Well, I know they obviously planned the end times, but maybe it was more than a year. Maybe they needed 3 years, but they needed to come out with a decent enough rule set so that when the Warhammer Fantasy players decided to, field their dispossessed, there wasn't a rule about having the longest beard or shouting for the lady gave you whatever, it gave you +1 to hit or whatever. It could have just been done so much better to smooth the transition between the two. And granted, ending the old world was in Warhammer, in Games Workshop's plans, presumably for a while.
But I think the biggest draw to Warhammer Fantasy wasn't the rules. Sure, it was really complicated it's not really a complicated game compared to so many other miniature games out there. But in terms of GW games, yes, it was one of the most complicated. But I would say the draw to Warhammer Fantasy was the lore. And that is what really kept people around. So even the hyper competitive players, they might not have paid attention as much to the lore because of obviously they're focused on next new meta, best list versus next tournament list. But I think the people who played casually, the main player base of Warhammer Fantasy, were obsessed with the lore. So
It's not only that, it's the fact that it's all familiar. It's all familiar lore. It's a similar fantasy universe that a lot of people are used to. Where I find with a lot of the newest armies that they're coming out with for AOS are very different, very hard to relate in things we might already know. And that's my favorite part of fantasy, of the traditionalness of the fantasy setting.
Is that connection?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We all know what a dwarf is if I tell you what a dwarf is, or an elf. Things like that are very familiar to most people.
Mm-hmm.
Ogres, and not having to, go through the Orc or Elf pronunciation.
Elf, yeah.
Yeah, how did they get away with that for copyright for just putting an A in front of elves and it's fine?
Well, I'm not an expert in international copyright law.
Exactly.
But I'm sure that Games Workshop has somebody on retainer who is.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, and I'm not an AOS basher. I mean, I think I've said even on this show that I don't think that AOS is a bad game. I just think it's a different game for a different type of person. And if Games Workshop's plan was to convert all of the Warhammer Fantasy players over to Age of Sigmar seamlessly and not have a even more divided community, the way they did it was not the right thing.
The whole AOS fantasy, excuse me, animosity actually does sadden me. I don't think it needs to be there. I don't think either community should be attacking the other.
No.
But I mean, unfortunately, it's the internet, right? There's always gonna be comments in all the chat rooms and the forums sparking the divide or making it wider.
Yeah.
It's part of the game now. It's part of the community for these two games, unfortunately. However, we'll see what happens in 3 years when it gets relit again. Because I mean, the argument's at least been dying off. We've been seeing every time you upload an Age of Sigmar battle report, you're going to get some of those comments.
I think it's just bitterness. Honestly, people have just been bitter that their game was destroyed and GW kind of moved on. So I get it.
Okay, but we can all still play it. But yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. They probably shouldn't have actually blown up the old world, but they were trying to connect their new game to their old game.
Yep.
That was it.
If I was sitting at Games Workshop's office, I would have said deep in the caverns of whatever dwarven hold or Skaven, breeding pit, they found a realm gate, and that's how I would have ended it. And then the two would be connected, and I don't know. It would have just gone from there as two completely different game systems.
I think they had a simpler, when they did Blood Bowl, it was just an alternate universe.
Yeah, that would have been.
Because I think their reason for making the Age of Sigmar a successor of the old world was to allow all the existing sculpts and models to be used over there. So they wrote lore to connect everything. When it could have been alternate universe and probably would have saved a lot of animosity. But you know what? Again, we have the benefit of hindsight here.
Yeah.
It may have been a perfect idea on their part and their brainstorming.
On their idea to try to wrap up one game and try to kickstart another, but in that process, kind of peed off.
But okay, so we're all Warhammer Fantasy fans here. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that it happened because the community was dwindling, slowly dying out. People were moving on. You gotta
think was it only the community? So was it the rules of the game's fault? Was it because they weren't releasing content fast enough? I'm trying to remember towards the end of 8th, how often were they releasing a codex?
That's an interesting argument. People bring it up a lot, but I remember the last couple of years of Warhammer Fantasy, all 3 of my armies got updates and redos. So stuff was coming out fast. And then End Times came out and stuff was coming out fast again. So there is, they weren't supporting it enough. They're putting more resources into 40K. The game is complicated. It's a combination of all of these things.
The army sizes,
right. Army sizes for sure. I mean,
the way that I remember it was 7th edition ended. They released the 8th edition book. Then the 8th edition book sat out there for a year without there being a single new army book.
That sounds somewhat familiar.
And then every 6 months after that, there was 3 books at a time.
I remember it being every 6 months at the end, but I wasn't in it at the beginning of 8th.
So interestingly enough, I missed the beginning of 8th edition. I was so busy with life that I don't even think
in the pre-MiniWarGaming days.
Yeah, I didn't buy the book right away. I remember 7th. 6th I thought was my favorite. I went back and played it. That game's garbage. Now 7th is my favorite, but no, 8th is my current favorite. I guess my favorite.
Wait, you like reforming?
Oh, buddy, have either of you went back and played 6th edition recently?
I've played 7th recently, but not 6th.
Don't do 6th.
You can't move.
Okay, so I played 5th. I'm old. This is many, many, many years ago. The change from 5th to 6th was so good. 6th edition was an amazing game. But if you compare it to like how we sorted out most of the problems now, 6 was bad. You can't move. You can't reform. Combat's always in a
Can you
weird
move
spot.
backwards? I don't think you can.
I don't even remember if you can move backwards.
Oh,
Was it
boy.
6th or 7th when if you lost to a fear-causing enemy in combat, you auto break?
That's 6th.
That was I hated that, man.
But
Oh
you had
man,
to-
that was rough.
You
I
had to be
lost.
outnumbered, right?
Say what?
You had to be outnumbered, I think.
You
for
do.
that.
You have to be outnumbered.
Yes, outnumbered by a fear-causing enemy. That's what it was. That's right.
But I mean, 5 cavalry charging into 20 skeletons. You might lose that combat just on resolution, and you're gonna run away. I know this because we have a bat rep on MiniWarGaming where I completely forgot that rule, and I'm being very cocky. I'm playing against Luca, and I send in like Dragon Princes, and I'm like, whatever, I lost combat, I'll be fine. He's like, no, you're gonna run. I'm like, no, I'll make my leadership. I'll be fine. It's like, no, you're running. I'm like, oh, wait. Stupid mistakes from a stupid edition.
Well,
What
okay. Let me ask you a question. Have y'all read into the Warhammer Armies project at all?
No.
I'm not familiar with that
What
at
is
all.
this?
For real? From
Yeah.
really Warhammer Armies project? Y'all have never heard of this?
Nope.
Not
no.
at all.
What? Okay, so there is a young fellow, probably about my age. I think he said he's turning 30 this year, named Matthias, and he actually rewrote every single. We actually just talked to him this morning. He rewrote every single codex and completely balanced it out and did a very good job, but made it kind of like an edition 8.5. He started it in 2010, so he actually started writing everything towards the end, I believe, of 7th edition, and he started writing everything for what he thought would be a more balanced game, and took a lot of the issues that people complained about from 8th edition and kind of smoothed them out, because obviously GW wasn't really putting a lot of time. They were putting most of it into 40K. So he made complete new army books for every single book. And he updated the Skaven book, the Bretonnian book. He made a Kislev book, Cathay book. Almost.
I think I've
a
actually
Nippon
seen
book.
I think I've seen the Cathay and Nippon books online before, and I didn't know that those were from him then.
Yes, he made.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he did a fantastic job. I don't know. I'm surprised y'all haven't heard of that. Wow, that's cool. I would definitely look into that.
See, the thing about that actually makes me nervous is, what if I go pick up his orc whatever book, and I start playing a couple of games, and I say, hey, this thing is just really way too powerful, and this is really, really bad, and he starts changing things, because this is what happened with the Ninth Age community.
Right.
They worked as a community together. They had an interesting idea, but they kept changing things so fast. If somebody has one good game with one unit, and all of a sudden we got to nerf that unit. This thing didn't roll too many ones. We're gonna buff this. Community and fan made things. I find they come from a
There's
place.
a bias.
There's a bias, exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Well,
Whereas,
okay.
like,
So
even
what's
when
cool
it's a
about
company.
his system is, so he doesn't update everything automatically, right? He actually take his own. Like if you might say, oh, something was super not OP and I need it to be a little bit better, he will take that consideration. But my favorite thing that he does is he has his own Discord channel for his project, and he will submit, here there's 10 different things I'm looking to change, and for each rule set he's looking to change, he will send several suggestions, and he will let the community vote on what they think is the most advantageous overall or the most balanced overall. And then there's discussions that break off of each rule set. So it's not, what I like is that it allows engagement for the community that is actually playing the game to determine, their own fate. But I can understand that, you would be hesitant to play something like that only because your army could change constantly. But
Right.
what
I'll
I
tell you right now, I'm gonna look into
what I
this.
enjoy reading is, the lore is all there, all your favorite characters are there. I just think he totally rebalanced the game for at least 8th edition, so you won't see dark elves or high elves being able to beat 50% of the other armies. It's really well done, at least in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to take a look at that. I'd be very interesting to see, especially from the older books being the Skaven and the Bretonnian and Beastmen, What he's
Yeah.
been able to do with
Skaven,
those
Beastman, Bretonia, like it's
books that never got their 8th edition love.
or 7th.
Or
I
so,
will-
yeah. Yeah.
I will tell you, as a Beastman player predominantly, I freaking love
sorry.
Matthias's book.
What did you say, Kyle? You love what?
I love Matthias's books. They do a really nice job, and just generally speaking, all of the books that he's worked on, they really play to the lore more fairly than maybe the rest of the 8th edition books did.
See, things I wonder about those two is I'm not trying to. Okay, so every game I play, for the most part, gets recorded. That's what I do for my day job. I record every game, and Warhammer Fantasy is already a niche community, niche audience. I wonder if the sub community is too niche of the sub community inside the Warhammer Fantasy community, or if the greater community as a whole would love it. And it's only one way to find out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit. So you guys up in Ontario, you're starting to see some new players come to Fantasy, right?
Yep.
Indeed, we are.
Young
And
guys.
are they coming to Fantasy from Age of Sigmar, or they're coming to Fantasy from Kings of War or some
They
other?
seem to be well. At least the two brothers that we know are coming from Total War.
Yep. The
Nice. Okay.
The 4 new ones that are in this area are all from Total War, who sparked a couple other older guys to repaint or reinvigorate their armies. But yeah, it's all Total War. And these guys don't like Age of Sigmar.
I think because they're used to playing. Obviously, Warhammer Total War is a fantastic game,
Yep.
but they're used to playing that, so they want to see those models.
Yep.
And that was one of my favorite parts about that game, is being able to see the models that I love and just coming to life. And I remember seeing the first trailer, seeing Debbie Griff Knights charge out of the forest, and I was like, I don't care how much this game costs, take my stupid money. CA, like I'm all in. I never played a Total War game before it, but boom, it was just immediate. It was just immediate
love. I've played thousands of hours of each of the games. I started with Shogun Total War. That was their first one.
Okay.
So it was started with Shogun, and then it went to I think Rome was the second, and then Medieval Total War, and then they started doing 2s and 3s of those. But I love Warhammer Total War 2 obviously is my favorite. When you plan the whole world.
The Mortal Empires is fantastic.
It's so good.
It's so long, and it's just amazing to finally just cross the whole old world. And
But I think GW saw that. They saw that the amount of players that are playing that game combined with all the other rank and file games that are out there that are taking away from GW games like Kings of War that you said, or Song of Ice and Fire.
Do you think they're taking away from Games Workshop? Is there a Kings of War community in your area?
In my specific area, sometimes. I know several people that have completely disenfranchised themselves from GW because of what they did to Fantasy. I'm not saying that's smart or the right thing to do. I'm just saying that's what they did, and they wanted rank and file games, so they wanted to play a game that still had a business's support. So obviously Fantasy lost the support of the company, so they went to something like Kings of War or Song and Ice, anything that had support that was new models or releasing new rules, and keeping up with the community.
Yeah, we tried to do the same thing. We just got so busy.
Yeah, we are actually given some Song of Ice and Fire stuff from Adepticon, and we had planned on making a little bit of coverage on Steve's channel, but that was right around the time that we had to move buildings here at MiniWarGaming, and
cool.
Oh boy, that was a process, and just trying to figure out everything here, and we just never got back to it.
I think we all liked the game too. Same as Kings of War, we all liked it.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun for sure.
Did you see that video that they released to throw shade against?
Oh
GW?
yeah, yep.
So good. It was so good.
You can play it right now.
Oh man, it was so messed up.
I mean, I think that there was a missed opportunity from GW, kind of saying that your game copied our game to begin with. So
oh gosh. They could start a Twitter war or something.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so the guys in your area who are playing Kings of War, are they using Kings of War miniatures or Games Workshop miniatures?
Actually, it was a combination of both.
Okay.
Kings of War has actually faded away from this area, at least the area that I'm in. Kyle's a little bit, maybe 40 minutes south of me, but pretty much the same area. But mostly Kings of War has faded away. Right now, it's mostly 40K, Age of Sigmar,
So no rank and flank.
Infinity,
Yep.
a
lot
little
of-
bit of Song of Ice and Fire, actually.
I find that Kings of War. Well, no, we know. Kings of War isn't doing great in North America. It's doing much better over in the UK and Europe.
Right. And Fantasy always did better over there anyway, so
It's very
Yeah.
it's
that
true.
makes sense.
It's true. Weirdly,
Okay, so you mentioned Adepticon. Did you know that Adepticon is now hosting a Warhammer Fantasy tournament?
What?
Yeah, buddy, 8th edition,
Yep.
Okay.
Really?
Interesting.
which I do plan on going to.
Okay, so are they still doing their Kings of War then, or no?
I haven't heard anything about the Kings of War, but I know they're doing Fantasy.
Yes, actually, they are. They are doing it because that's
Why
when
are they
give
bringing back
away.
Warhammer Fantasy?
Because that's when they give away their big prize. I remember when Mantic was up here.
Oh my goodness, I don't want to play a tournament, but I'm going to play a tournament.
Steve doesn't like tournaments.
Yes. Bring it out. Even what's funny enough is that with the announcement, it also, let's see, in January and February, there are two in our area. One's in Pennsylvania and one's in Virginia. Here in Virginia, there are Warhammer Fantasy tournaments being held.
Really?
Now, are those
Yes.
going to be? Are they like using the old ETC, ITC
Oh, yeah.
rules that used to exist back in the
Are
day?
they comping anything?
At least from my knowledge, at least these tournaments, I'm not sure about Adepticon, but at least for these tournaments, these local Pennsylvania and Virginia ones, I couldn't tell you, but I think it's pretty lax. They're kind of just
Okay.
having a narrative game that's not trying to be,
Okay,
you know,
because
not beat
I mean,
face and crush your opponent kind of thing.
the dwarven castle will probably do too well without any kind of comp system.
Right. I think they are doing some type of concepts, and I know they're also limiting. You can't take like duplicate rares and some other things.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
you can't take 2 organ guns with 2 engineers and just blow someone off the table.
I get to use the banner of the World Dragon.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if you're planned on coming to Adepticon, but I
Yeah,
definitely
we'll
plan
do
to
that.
go and play in this fantasy tournament because that just, I don't care if I win. I just want to show up, see a whole bunch of beautifully painted armies, and have some fun games. That's all I want.
can't promise we're gonna play, but come find us when we're there.
Okay.
We'll
I
definitely
will
have
come
room.
find you. I might actually, I don't know how many people they expect, but I'd love to just walk around and just talk to people, interview them, hold a mic up, talk to them
gonna-
about fantasy.
I'm gonna try to push this and
Have
talk
some.
about this in our videos.
Yeah, no, I'm down.
Blue will have to have some Adepticon tournament coverage.
Yes. Totally. I think that'd be cool. That'd be
Which
really
one
cool.
of you is the most competitive?
Sorry?
Which one of you is the most competitive? Who's gonna bring a really good fantasy list?
I mean, I could.
Yeah.
I used to be really competitive in fantasy. Like,
And what are you gonna bring? What would be the army?
Give away everyone your secrets right
Yeah.
now.
I didn't know
I'm
what
not going to say anything. Well, okay, so in 8th edition, it used to be, I think I mentioned this on one of our other recordings. I used to play Ardboys in those tournaments.
Okay.
And before 8th edition released the Lizardmen Codex, I would use the 7th edition Lizardmen Codex.
Yeah.
And I won the first round and second round of Ardboys, so they gave me a free 3,000 point army. Lizardmen were great in 7th edition with their book in 8th. I'm not a huge fan of their 8th edition book. It's still good, but it's not as broken as it was. But I think the best lists, the best armies in 8th edition fantasy, if you're not doing end times rules, is Dark Elves, High Elves, and that's probably it. Those are probably the 2 top. Just because Always Strike First is so good.
Oh, for the reroll.
Dwarves too, yeah.
I
But
think
if you do have a Dark Elf versus High Elf matchup, I think Dark Elves win because
every
that
time.
hatred just
Mhm.
it just seals the deal.
Yep.
My
yeah, you're gonna see a lot of Dark Elves and Isles for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I won't bring that. If I go to a Adepticon, I'm not trying to win. I might bring like ogres or something. So I'll get crushed by
no.
the sun.
Ogres are the most hated army over here at MiniWarGaming. Nobody
that-
likes fighting the ogres.
I hate ogres so much.
They don't play the game. They're the Age of Sigmar of Warhammer Fantasy armies. They just run at you.
They're too fast, too strong.
There's
too
no
many
movement
moves.
phase. It's like, I'm gonna stay here because you're gonna charge me next turn.
I don't know. Kyle, do you think I play ogres pretty well? Like I actually play them?
I mean, you play them.
Wait,
Do
are
I,
you freaking
are you,
one?
do I think you're a good ogre player? Yeah, I think you're a good ogre player. I don't think they are a broken army. I think that you have to be prepared to, like, you have.
We're not saying broken. We're saying if you make your list, it's just a gut bus with the slot, not even the slaughter master, the tyrant and the butcher, and just a big old. All your points are there, and then Hellblaster cannons. What are the cannons? Whatever
Iron
the cannons,
blasters.
and that's all you need. And then the rest of your points are peripheral. You just run that big slot
Cats,
forward.
cats,
Yeah,
cats.
of course. I mean, you're not playing the game. You're running forward. I'm getting aggravated.
Okay. Well, maybe I haven't tried to make a super broken.
You haven't played the
list.
Josh
You
list.
haven't played Well, because there's a bunch of things that if you watch any of our Warhammer Fantasy bat reps, that people don't pick up on it, but there's a bunch of things we don't do. Like the Band of the World Dragon is almost never in a bat rep. Ariel's almost never in a bat rep. Josh will never even bring the what's it called, the Hellheart.
Mm-hmm.
That thing's gross.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things that have the potential of completely shutting down or ruining a game, which is bad for a bat rep, right?
Right.
So I mean, we every now and then bring a bigger list.
Witch Elf Cauldron Bomb. Death.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that thing's disgusting.
18 Crypt Horrors. There's a bunch of things that they work, but you can't do it all. You can't do it in video.
It was the very much. Here's the I doing it once against somebody who works here, so I don't feel so bad.
And never again.
I'd be cool if Adepticon does like a Highlander style type game, tournament list building, meaning you can't duplicate, like no duplicate rares. You can't have more than 2 of a special, and other things like that. I just like it when your list is forced to be somewhat fluffy. You can't maximize monsters or whatever.
That would be fantastic. I think armies like Skaven, maybe Empire, the Horde armies might suffer from that though. Can you do Highlander with orcs? Maybe you could actually.
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, you could.
I think you could. Orcs have plenty of options.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
No, you're absolutely right.
Speaking of orcs, how's your orcs army coming, Steve?
Yeah, Steve.
Wow, guys, not now, please. No, again, we've been ridiculously busy. I'm working on 2 other projects that I have to finish before I finish my orcs, and I have 5 days left to finish those projects and stay on my timeline.
Oh God.
No, I actually might do it. I'm doing very, very well, but I wanted to get paint on my orcs December 1st. So I should have them soon.
Nice. Cullen, are you working on anything, or you just still have your Skaven and your Empire?
So I have been kind of rounding out some of the models I had sitting around. For my Skaven, I painted up some more gutter runners recently. I've actually gotten into a recent kick of painting some old metal stuff. So I actually bought like an old Lord Nurglelich and just some of the some of the older characters that I'm like, screw it. Just painting some stuff for fun. And then I actually have a dwarf army sitting in simple green right now.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so I'm still up in the air on what, because I do want to paint it after a true faction and do it proper. I'm just kind of bouncing between which color scheme I'm actually gonna lock in on.
There's like 4 armies in the game with cannons, and you're playing 3 of them.
Hey, you know how bad I am at it.
Safest place to be when Cullen's playing with cannons is standing in front of the cannons. They ain't gonna hit you.
Gonna blow themselves up.
I hate cannons and Nathan. Gosh.
They are a problem. They have unfortunately hurt the monsters. Like, I mean, you see less monsters because of them.
I'd like to see cannons go down to like D3 wounds apiece or something.
I agree. That's actually, that's perfect. D3 would be too little.
Was it D3 plus 1 that we were thinking about even?
Yeah, D3 plus 1 is terrible.
Okay, I could see that.
So something that we kind of theory crafted, I don't know, last year sometime was if you roll your artillery dice and you hit the model you're trying to hit, it would be strength 10 d6. but if you bounced into them, it would be like strength 7d3 plus 1 or something like that.
I love that. That makes sense.
That just makes sense.
It loses some momentum. Makes sense.
Yeah, I love that.
And it makes it more risky to shoot a cannon, so to the point where it's not so, point and click.
Right, because now it's very much 10 inches from the back of that.
Right.
Or 8 inches from the center of your unit, or something like
The
that.
cannon hitting monster and rider.
Oh,
both
that's
is it's
Yep.
silly.
It's not fair.
It's gonna be random like everything else.
Yeah.
One or the other.
With that being said, here's a question, and this is actually from one of our fans. If you could change only one rule in 8th, what would it be and why? Would it be cannons or would it be something else?
One rule? Oh. Whew. It
I
would
would
probably
look
have
at. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would probably have something to do with the magic phase. Maybe I would take the double sixes be irresistible force and miscast to just being irresistible force and make double ones miscast again, and then have that supersede irresistible force.
That would make things interesting. It definitely makes it more risky.
We have tried filming some battle reports with it, and oh boy, was it interesting.
Oh, scratch that. No, I would remove horde first.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go.
Yep.
You would do what?
I get rid of the horde rule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I want to see smaller unit sizes again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back when the game was real good and you had multiple units and you played the move phase a lot, not one big unit and then your chaff.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Horde or something to do with steadfast.
I get rid of horde. I get rid of steadfast. I would tweak always strikes first. Maybe
Oh,
get rid of it altogether.
Get rid of the
Horde,
reroll.
Steadfast. You don't need always strikes first.
Always strikes first. You can hit me.
And then just the magic
First,
phase
but
and
don't
the
reroll.
cannons, and then we got a good game. And then all of Skaven.
You beef so hard with my rats.
No, the only thing about Skaven, I can't stand that a bunch of their spell because they don't have types, right?
So gross.
Well, like, Scorch is the Cullen almost never casts it. He's a nice guy, but Scorch enrages me.
Yeah. It doesn't scatter, right? It just gets
It doesn't
placed. And
scatter.
it's like,
You
I'm
can
gonna
cast
hit
it in that
everything
of
right
combat. You can cast it while you're in combat. It has no restrictions. Just
Yep.
roll it. What is it? 10 plus? It's like 9 to 11. In that
Yeah,
area.
I
And you
want to say
place this
9.
template, and you.
Either way, it's too cheap.
It's a 15 plus, maybe 18 plus cast the spell, and it's like 9 to 10, 9 to 11, somewhere in that area. I hate Scorch.
I love Skaven magic.
Well, I sent you the link for the Skaven Armies Battle Project thing. Just check it out. If
Oh, for sure.
you want to look at it, go ahead and check it out. It's fine. It looks cool.
I
No, that's
definitely
definitely
will.
gonna happen. Because like I said, I'm working on an Orc army, right? And like I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna play games, and they're gonna be fantastic. But like that book is kind of like there's not a single magic item that's like everything is 50% overcost and points for their magic items. The spells aren't great. They're not terrible, but like they suffer from being the first or second book, and they really suffer from that.
Okay, Kyle, what would you change? If you could change one thing about 8th, what would it be?
Man, I would change something with the BSB, I think. Because that would shake up the meta so hard. Like maybe if it only gave
that reroll.
If it only gave rerolls for something like for the unit you were in, or a smaller radius.
That might compound the problem of the horde, right?
Well, maybe.
If all your bigs have to go in one basket, they're going to go all in one basket.
True.
Yeah, but then it would make like psychology a thing again.
You know what? I could see. I never even thought of it until you said it, but yeah, if they removed it, yeah, I get behind that.
Because I definitely feel like fear and terror are just.
Yeah,
I know they're meaningless. Yeah.
And if you change that rule, then having all that chaff in your army becomes a lot more dangerous.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just think it could really change things up.
That's something we're going to try. Actually, that would be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm always down to
We'll
try
that.
Okay, so I'm thinking. Okay, so obviously I like all the cannons and changing magic and stuff. I'm gonna say one that's different. I'm gonna say get rid. Okay, first get rid of the basic rule book's magic items. So no one can all select the same thing, and bring back the number of magic items that you had in your 7th edition books.
That would be really fun.
So then
as
each
someone
army
who's
had
still,
like special cool stuff instead
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
generic things.
that's one of my favorite parts about the Skaven book being one of the older books. I still have a lot of those options. While some of them are kind of broken, but I love the options. And then when I first started the Empire, it was very much like, oh
12 magic
Yeah.
items.
yeah,
2 of them are good. One's
Exactly.
a banner.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's funny because Games Workshop for years they would pick a method of doing something they do for a couple of books and then abandon it. So the earlier books, the first two, Empire and Dwarves, have the smallest and the just absolutely the worst magic items.
they're so
And
expensive.
then eventually they kind of like went back on it, started adding more and more and better stuff. Not to the point of like where Seven had them, but just a lot of good things. But I miss Intrigue at the Court. Stupid rules like that from Seventh.
And even like the Skaven, they have the tail attacks, the rat bodyguard, poison,
Right.
all those things that I never ever use anymore.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be there.
All right, so let's go through some other questions from our listeners. What this is a good one. What character or model do you see as your Warhammer persona, and why?
What's that? Risha's Goldtooth.
Oh god.
Ugh,
If I could get these guys to drag me around the office, I would.
He would.
that's awesome. Just sit there with your big chicken leg.
Oh, buddy,
Nom, nom,
I want chicken. What's yours, Cullen?
I can't think of one.
Steve,
what you got for me?
it's gonna be a rat. No, maybe not.
Are we saying special character or just like a character? Like it could just be an Empire captain or something.
I don't know. Well, I can tell you I would definitely not be an artillery crewman. 100%.
You actually might be, because the workhorse of the Empire, eh? And you are the workhorse around here.
Oh
You
no.
actually would be an artilleryman.
That's awesome.
Constantly feeding in the cannonballs.
Oh.
Hey, wait, and when things go wrong, do people explode on you?
No, he floats everybody else. We all run.
No.
No. No, nobody else here. Nobody where we work. Nobody else has to do any work. It's literally just Cullen. So, yeah, if things go wrong, he's the only one who knows.
That seems like you're pretty high up there on the chain, man, on the ladder.
If Cullen calls in sick, we gotta shut down for a day.
Kyle, who would you be?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I would Kazrak.
Ooh,
Okay.
you're whipping everybody forward.
Interesting.
Definitely Kazrak. What about you, Blue?
Sail Ariel.
No. If I had to choose one that fits my personality, I'm not too sure about my personality, but I would love to be like a Way Watcher. That would be sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, I think Way Watchers they're one of my coolest or one of my favorite models in the lore and in the game. I mean Orion would be cool too, but I'm not like that cocky. I can't say I'm Orion, but I'll say
I
Way
love
Watcher.
that model.
Say what?
I love that model.
Not the old one, right?
Yeah, the old one.
Really?
There's a newer one we're talking about. Was there only one model for him?
No, there's two.
What? No, there's several.
Orion?
Yeah.
Yes, Orion.
Are you talking about Orion with or without the dogs?
With the dogs.
Yeah, so that's the new one.
Yeah,
It was an older one? I have to
oh
look
my
this up.
gosh, you don't
It
know
was
the.
awful too.
Oh, it's so
I
bad.
don't remember an older one.
Oh yeah. Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
it's there.
I'm gonna look this up.
Both of us now have our phones out.
So while you guys are looking that up, one of our listeners wants to know if you guys would ever consider holding a fantasy tournament in your bunker.
Oh, absolutely, it's gonna happen. That's
Really?
Oh, right, the old one. I remember the old one now. Goodness. I love that one too. I do. I don't
Classic.
even care.
Classic. Those antlers, man.
Yeah. I love the old one more actually. Yeah, but a fantasy tournament in the bunkers absolutely it's going to happen.
Cool.
So we been so busy we haven't been working on fantasy personally anymore, but with like I'm working on a new army. The community here growing. They want it. We want it. It's gonna happen for sure. It's just a matter of sorting out everything that's going on over here. Getting into the groove. Like, we literally just moved in. How long have we been here? 6 months, maybe longer.
Since May.
May. So we haven't been here that long, and we're just working out all the kinks, working out how that whole tournament hall works for us. I mean, they just got the bunker rooms all sorted out in the proper. So yeah, it's there's gonna be a bunch of events, but that one's definitely on the gonna happen list.
That will be really exciting. I would make a trip up to Welland for that.
Perfect. That'd be awesome.
Wow, that'd be super cool.
Listeners, you've heard it here. Kyle will drive all the way up to Ontario.
I guess the onus is on us now.
Well, in the comments, I want to see here on YouTube how many of you would come.
Yeah.
I want to know. I mean, if everyone wants to come, if we have to bump this up and make it happen sooner.
Could happen.
I think we can make one happen before summer anyway.
Hopefully, come the new year, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, high on the list.
Okay, I'd go. Shoot, Kyle, if you're driving, shoot, let's go.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll drive. That's fine.
Well, there's 4 of us now. Actually, no, there'll be
And then Luca,
I'm sure we could.
Max.
I'm sure that we could rustle up at least 6 people from down here.
Just from locally? Yeah, just locally, for sure.
That'd be wild.
I think we can get 60 back there.
I think our capacity is 40 with tables.
Okay, we gotta get 40. We're gonna get 40. I want to see a room full of fantasy.
You need to talk to Dave and see if he's ready to put on an addition yet.
I don't know about that. Although when we're at Adepticon, we can all work the crowd and see who's willing to.
Yes.
I'm very interested to see how big of a turnout they get for that.
Oh yeah.
I'll send you the link to that right now. Hold on.
Perfect. I can't believe I didn't know that.
I know. That's huge.
We get so
They just released the news a week and a half ago or something. So.
But yeah, Steve is right. We are very much in the middle of it, but we're also
nowhere near any of it.
Yeah.
We're stuck in the middle of our little MiniWarGaming world that it's all hobby 24/7. It feels like, but like we forget about like what it's hard to explain. There's so much going on out there that we can't keep up with.
No, I get it. It's just you can only have so much at one time going through, and anything else just passes by. I get it.
So this could be conceived as a controversial question.
I love it.
Owen, here you go. Owen, Ash, Clarence, and Josh. Who is the hardest matchup in fantasy and why?
Clarence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Clarence is he is very good. Every time he plays, he's just very gentle with you. He's also one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life.
Oh yeah.
Like
I have never been almost apologetic to somebody railroading my own steam tank.
Yeah, exactly.
He feels bad about it, and you have to. No, dude, it's the rules. It's get fine, it.
Clarence. No, Clarence for sure. He's the best of us for sure. And,
so if you had to rank them 1 to 4, how's the rest of the list look?
So it was Ash, Owen, Josh, and Clarence. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put. Oh, guy, this is me.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh. All right, I'm sorry if any of you are listening. Okay, so we're gonna put Clarence at number 1. Okay. Oh, Josh and Owen are to come next. I'll explain why they're actually both very similar in their list building and play style. They're both gonna build some sort of thing and force you to deal with it.
Yes.
Owen, however, will probably do a better job of convincing you are wrong.
The psychological
so Owen's
warfare.
got that. I don't know if what I'm doing is correct, but I'm gonna act like I'm 100% confident, and I'm gonna make you second guess yourself type thing. So I'm gonna give it to Owen. Owen's to get the edge, and also he's a very good gamer. I'm putting Ash at the bottom, because we have one video on MiniWarGaming with over 1 million views, where Ash plays dwarfs against my vampire counts, and it just messed up so bad. He made a few mistakes, and the comments have never let up on that one. So I got to put Ash on the bottom for that.
And
Are-
still to this day, that is one of the most
It's, I
highly
think,
viewed.
biggest viewed video ever.
I think there's like one or two before it, but they're not battle reports.
It's our number one viewed battle report for sure.
I mean,
So-
it's hard to record a battle report. You're going to make mistakes. You can't look up everything, and
People will never get it. Whenever I have a guest, I give them a little speech every morning about what to expect by doing a bat rep. And one of the things I tell them is, there's a rule that you know and you've done right 1,000 times. But in the moment, like for example, let's say how far does a human move in Warhammer Fantasy? You say 4 inches. That's how far they move. They've done 4 inches for 30 years. You've played 1,000 games. It's always been 4 inches. At one point in today's game, you're going to say they move 5 inches and you're going to move them 5 inches.
yep,
It's a brain fart. It's going to happen. And then 10,000 people are going to jump down your throat for it because they don't know that they do it too, but there's not 10,000 people watching them pointing it out.
exactly. There's
I
not a
have
peanut
never-
gallery.
Exactly. I have never once had anybody come in here and not and be 100% correct. And especially the guys, every time that we get people who are very cocky about it, don't worry. I know the rules. I'll get nothing wrong. I tell them right then and there, you're not going to get through turn one before I point out a couple of things. Because we all do it.
Yep.
So we just don't know it. And fantasy is a little convoluted. I mean, the FAQ and the errata is as big as the rule book.
Mm-hmm. They are. I've got them all printed out in a folder. Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that. I mean, it is super hard to film a bat rep. Now,
They're definitely fun to film, though. For granted, they're definitely fun to film.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
so
okay.
much.
So actually, Kyle, I remember when I messaged you last week or the week before about watching one of your videos.
yeah.
So, okay, little backstory on that one. There's a co-op in the office. He's 16. He plays fantasy, and we were talking about fantasy bat reps and how difficult it is, and most people will play it wrong. And then, like, for example, Jackson, let me show you something. I typed in Warhammer Fantasy, clicked on the first bat rep, and like, let's watch these guys for a second. They're not going to get very far before they make a bunch of mistakes. And you did very, very well. I couldn't find anything. I was actually pulling up a video for the sole purpose of showing everybody how everybody makes mistakes. It's hard to do. Showing the kids, like, don't worry about it. Everybody makes mistakes. And he did very, very well.
Which
And
one
that's
was
why
this?
I can't. It was
Episode 2?
It was Beasts of Chaos versus. Maybe it was two things. I can't remember, but the reason I realized it was you guys is I started reading the comments. And I'm like, Kyle was replying too much. And I'm like, wait a second, I recognize his name. Hold on a second, because this is back when you guys were still.
Electric counts.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
I think it was episode 2, I believe. Maybe it was episode 1.
For the compliment, at least we didn't make mistakes. In that.
Maybe it was ogres. It was Beastman. I just remember it was Beastman.
So here you guys go. So between Blue and I, we have a lot of armies, obviously. What bat rep would you like us to play next?
I just saw Bretonians versus Tomb Kings. My God, those Bretonians are beautiful.
Aw, thanks, man.
Oh,
They
yeah,
are
those things,
all-
holy crap. To see a proper Bretonian army painted that way.
I always talk about one day I want to paint my own Bretonian army now that I have the experience to do the army justice.
Right.
Well, who's got time for that? You did every heraldry different. Like, oh, it was, yeah. So anything with Bretonians is always gonna be my favorite.
Yeah, I just love their lore is great. They're having to fight everything on all sides. They are destined for doom.
Kyle, can you do a Minotaur bus? Can you give me
Yeah.
a horde of Minotaurs?
Absolutely.
Can you make that list viable?
I mean, I don't know if viable is the right word, but I can make it.
I would love to see, because I talk regularly. I have a Beast of Chaos army for Age of Sigmar. It's hard not to rebase them on a square. I really want to do it. I would love to play a Minotaur list. So if you do that, I want to see that.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely do that.
And then from me, part of me just wants to say Wood Elves because we have so little Wood Elf coverage here that I think that army deserves a little bit more justice on the internet.
A well-played Wood Elf list is just something to see.
Oh yeah, I love the Wood Elves. Fear the forest.
Well, when I was buying the orcs, because I want to get a new fantasy army, so the guys don't play the same armies all over and over again, I was gonna buy Wood Elves, and I was about to make the purchase, and then I went to Luca and Cullen, and they're like, they probably don't want me to play the exact same play style I've played with every one of my armies or my idols. So I went orcs, so I just get in the Karmat with them. The idea of Wood Elves are one of my first armies, actually.
Oh, mine too. Actually, they were my first.
Antonia for me, 5th edition starter set.
Nice.
Way back when.
I started in 5th too. I can't remember when I started.
My God, that game was bad.
It's been a while.
Yeah, mine was 8th edition Skaven, which is actually given to me by Steve.
Yeah.
From all of his leftover Island of Blood halves that he never wanted to paint.
Like, I'm never going to paint these rats.
And that was actually my first ever army that I still own, and I to this day will never rebase it.
Well, you weren't really a gamer back then.
Well, I was a Magic player.
Yeah.
But I never played any Warhammer, any sort of miniature
maybe
games.
You might like this game. Maybe I can get somebody here to play.
Well, I was, we obviously being so exposed to 40K here.
Yeah.
I there was always I picked up some Chaos Marines and was trying to get into that, but I remember when I was looking through all the factions of all of Warhammer, it was the Skaven. It was the fact that you had rat people. I could play an army of nothing but rat people.
So many of them so fast, it was ridiculous.
And that was before contrast paint too. Can you just imagine?
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Could you imagine that army now with contrast?
I don't want to talk
starting
about
all
it.
over again,
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, it's okay. Now you can buy new Skaven stuff and you'll be done with it.
Okay, so I already own 2 armies. One of them is on square bases. The other one is on circle bases. I have a problem.
I did that with my Lizardmen, though.
That's true.
I didn't want to rebase one around. I want to play them in Age of Sigmar, so I made a whole new army.
I am sad that you don't have your Lizardmen anymore.
No, I'll get rid of all of them.
You sold those, right? I remember that bad rap.
Yep. Because I played too many games with those armies. I need to cycle through and get
freshen up.
Yeah. There's only so many times you can watch me play Lizardmen before it's the exact same bat rap.
Yep.
So, Steve, when are you going to win a proper game with your vampire counts?
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Hold on, sir.
I'm holding.
No spoilers, but
what?
I got my one victory and I retired as champion. Never played again. It was against a 16-year-old. He didn't know how to play the game, but I don't care. A win is a win is a win.
Woo! Crush them, baby seals.
No, actually, okay, so a little spoiler for Bat Rap that's actually on my channel, Mountain Miniatures Gaming. It's already up. I'm playing against Jackson, who's new to the game. He's 16. He's playing Dark Elves. And so, okay, he already knows this. I'm going to tell him. I'll tell you, everybody. I'm playing with the intent of letting him win. Because he's learning the game. I want him to enjoy the game. But then I start to win. And then I'm like, wait, I can get a victory here. And then without me really understanding, I'm like, oh no, I'm going for the win. I'm going for my absolute best. But the worst thing possible happens is he turns it around. And he's gonna beat me. And I couldn't handle it. So the last couple of turns, I am trying so hard to not let this kid beat me. It was one of the most frustrating game experiences of my life, where literally for 2 full game turns, my vampire is running on his own because he killed his entire retinue. Is running away from his level 4 sorcerer on a horse, and we're just running away from each other. She's trying to bolt him down. He's healing himself back up, and if she kills him, he wins the game. If I stay alive, I win the game. So I kept on running for 2 turns. I mean, I did my best. I got that victory, and it's a victory. It counts.
And again, this is when I was mentioning earlier about the swinginess of fantasy and why it is so amazing. It is stories like that I can always reference.
I'm just so bad with vampires. I don't get it.
More Vargeist.
I guess. I only have 3.
Yeah, you need more. I think Vargeist is what's next. Because they have like 4 strength 5 attacks a turn or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they're 3 and then Frenzy. But, I never really enjoyed the vampire army. I don't know why I have them. Really...
I wish I had a full skeleton army. And luckily one of our members from SquareHammer is building one of those. So I'll be jealous of him.
Ooh. Well, I like how, even if you don't play this game, if you never played this game, you can still get most of the stuff. For a lot of the factions, you can get most everything you need. I know, like Empire, you're out of luck. High Elves are probably out of luck. But there's plenty of factions you can still get into this game if you really want to.
Dwarves are a little hard these days.
Dwarves are a little hard, yeah. But you can do orcs and goblins to a point. There's a number of factions you can kind of you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like seeing the whole, like, if someone is, obviously Age of Sigmar is out right now, but I like being able to purchase the Age of Sigmar models and use them for fantasy. Like the new Warriors of Chaos or Slaves to Darkness models.
I don't know. You think they're gonna fit on the 25 mil square?
That's what everyone is worried about, which it's totally valid, but I just think they look so good.
They look so good.
So Luke and I have actually talked about this. We're probably gonna play some games of Warhammer Fantasy with our round-based stuff. We just equalize the miniature base size, right? So if you put a bunch of 32 mil bases on a tray and you measure the distance, and we just change all the millimeters from 25 to 32. We just upscale everything. So everything will look bigger, but the same amount of attacks per proper base size will be played.
I think that works fine. I think
that's the only way you're gonna play those new knights and those new Chaos Warriors. I want to make a new fantasy army with them, but I just don't think they're gonna fit.
Oh, they look so good.
They look so good.
Those are gonna be a real challenge.
But they look so good.
Definitely getting them in a unit with such dynamic poses is in itself going to be the challenge.
Well, I guess you could use those as Skull Crushers. I think Chaos is Skull Crushers. You could use those as Skull Crushers if you wanted to.
Well, the thing is, I think the cavalry will probably be fine.
Okay.
I think. I suspect.
It's just the warriors.
Yeah, the warrior. I think the cavalry will be tight, like most cavalry is even now. But if you do some like rocks on the bases and adjust some heights, because there's always the feet hitting each other, right?
That's what it is.
Right. I think the cavalry you might be able to work with. I think the warriors are just because look at the old Chaos Warriors. They were, I don't know how do you even describe that pose where their
hands are forward.
Yeah, like their hands are
elbows are in.
Elbows exactly.
Yep, elbows are in and hands.
And these models look the same thing, only bigger and a little more dynamic. They're not going to fit.
It's the question of are they bigger or not.
I just can't wait to come out so we can find out. They're going to be bigger. Everything AOS is bigger.
Yeah.
When AOS came out, I wanted so desperately for there to be like a ranked warfare, rank and flank kind of like addendum to the rule set. I played around with it, and I think it's totally possible.
Like put things on movement trays and move them around?
Yep.
Like bonuses for flank and rear charges?
Yep.
Is it like what? Is it like +1 to hit type stuff?
What do you mean for being in the flank?
Yeah, because there's no combat resolution, right? Are you adding combat resolution?
I added a combat. This rule book was longer than the initial 4-pager that GW put out.
Man, I wrote a couple of rules for Age of Sigmar, and they did not like me for it. Way back when it first came out.
It was a formula. Though.
Well, it was interesting because nobody in the office.
That we literally filmed that game after work one day.
Yeah, because when the Age of Sigmar first came out, there was no way to make a army. Like I couldn't make a bat rep with the.
Remember when it was wounds?
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna use. Well, at the time that wasn't out yet.
I know, but that was the.
It was such a mess when it came out. I couldn't.
It's kind of surprising with GW being such a large company, for them not to have like that act together after having a long time to figure out what the plan was, to just release that. But
I think they made an assumption that the greater community doesn't care about competitive and super tight rules and games. These are just buddies in their basement playing with miniatures.
Super wrong there.
So let's give them the rules for
they
that.
were wrong.
Oh yeah.
It's fair to say they were wrong.
100%.
Because they know that what keeps GW alive is releasing new rules, so then everyone goes buys the new meta to win at the next tournament.
Yep.
That's what keeps GW going.
More than that, though, I mean, gamers need structure. If you don't give them any, you don't give them a game.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no boundaries, if there's no boundaries, you can do whatever you want. Nobody wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hold on, that's not true. That's how we all played when we were 4 and 7 with our Lego or whatever. We made up our own rules, but now I'm spending hundreds, if not, actually thousands of dollars on stuff. I want to structure that.
The least you can give me is some rules.
Let's see. This sounds like a perfect opportunity for some more fan questions. So some folks want to know if there are any plans for you guys collectively making your own fantasy channel on YouTube.
Is that already my channel? Wait, what do you mean by you guys? Like Colin and I, or MiniWarGaming?
Yeah, like you, Cullen, and Lucas, since you're kind of like the Warhammer Fantasy players at MiniWarGaming.
Well, so I have a channel, which was the reason my channel existed in the first place was just because whenever my buddies wanted to play a game, it just felt like a waste of time to not record it. And then at the time when I made my channel, if I recorded everything I did and put it on MiniWarGaming, it would sit in the queue for too long and the video would get old. So
and you were also playing a bunch of different games at that time too.
That's true, yeah. So yeah, I made my own channel, but now, which actually ended up being mostly 40K, but that's just the way the community in the area kind of was. But now we have a Kickstarter going on right now. So Luca Cole and I are, well, actually it's funded. We're close to our third stretch goal, or our second stretch goal.
Yeah, we were $250 away from our.
Just to run Warhammer Fantasy again on the channel on the regular. Like, it's going to happen. We've already made enough money to make the series happen.
The response has been just overwhelming, and we weren't sure what exactly to expect when we kind of
now
conceptualized it and decided to eventually put it out there, because we were sitting on the idea for quite some time before we actually released it.
Right.
What was your kind of inspiration for it? Was it just like you had an itch?
Well, okay. So this is interesting. I want to say daily, but it's probably not daily. But many times a week, I'm going to get an email or a message saying, "Hey, more fantasy. Hey, more fantasy, please." And I was like, literally, okay, let's see. These people keep asking for it. Let's see if they actually want it, if they'll actually pay for it, because it takes a lot of time. You guys know, you do this yourself. It takes time and money to produce these things. Mm-hmm. We didn't know how well this would do. We didn't expect the reception that we got. The community really wanted it, so they wanted to pay for it. Because if I'm going to take my time and record a bat rep, edit the bat rep, and upload it, if I put up a Warhammer Fantasy bat rep, I'm going to get my following of fantasy players watching it. But if I put up 40K, I'm going to get a whole bunch more views and more ad revenue. So it's always financially better to put up 40K. But fantasy is my love. Like, that's the one action I wanted to do. I would never do a 40K Kickstarter. I don't think I would anyway. But yeah, this is my favorite game, and all of a sudden it became justifiable to do it.
Yeah, when
things are decided, but things are too dedicated by money, like in life.
Yeah, and when Steve came to at least me with the idea, I was like 100% down, and I'm always. Being the video editor here at MiniWarGaming, I don't get to play as much as I would like to.
It's true.
I think some people would be shocked to find how little I actually game, because I'm so connected to here. So anytime I can, because I always also feel bad, Steve, Luca, Vito, all of them are playing every single day. Yep. So it's kind of hard to be like, hey, I know you just played a game all day, but like, you want to play a game with me after work?
None of us supposed to do that.
No, and I wouldn't expect you guys to. So.
No, but like that's not really harsh. It's hard to, like, everybody around here knows, like, you don't want to play for 8 hours during the day, and then play in the evening, because you have to go home and you have to paint for tomorrow's game.
Oh
man.
The job is a lifestyle. It is literally 24/7. You play all day and you paint all night.
Yeah, I can tell you.
That sounds fun and awful at the same time.
You know what? Okay, here's the thing. So, I'm almost complaining, but I wouldn't trade for anything else in the world. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. I get to play Warhammer all day.
Pretty awesome, honestly.
Yes.
Has Chris leaving? Chris was doing like studio armies, right?
No, not at all.
That was Lee.
Oh yeah, Lee was. Chris did solely painting tutorials. Yeah. He did anything he worked on was rarely, if ever, seen in a video. Like a battle report.
Yeah, there was every once in a while he'd do a big tutorial on a big showpiece model.
Yeah, like there's, I think,
like
Nagash
was
got used in the studio a bunch of times. For the most part, he was very independent, worked in his office, and then he ended up on a shelf afterwards, and he moved on to the next project, the next one.
So Lee was painting for the studio?
Yeah, Lee was a studio painter for the most part. Mostly he was a campaign painter.
Yep.
But yeah, like he rarely. Oh no, that's not true. He painted for the studio armies as well.
Oh yeah.
But like it's hard to. Okay, so to explain my lack of fully understanding is myself. Everything I use in a battle report is my personal property, and I painted myself.
Mhm.
Whereas Matt and Dave,
that's changed
yeah.
a little bit more recently with the Raven Guard.
Oh, that's true. The Raven Guard is not mine. The first army, that's not mine. You're right. But whereas Matt and Dave, they completely stopped all hobbying. Though both of them talked recently about hobby, but either way, so they don't hobby at all, and they have other people doing that kind of stuff for them, whether it be like outsourced paintings, painting commission studios or whatever, and then Lee in-house would do like custom stuff for campaigns or stuff for their armies. Well, when I say their armies, I mean like armies that they use in the regular.
The guy that runs the store up front, does he paint for you guys?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, Dan has done some commissions for us.
He does good work too. He's a good guy.
Oh yeah.
It's all of the stuff that he has done, and I've watched in Bat Reps is gorgeous. It's beautiful stuff.
We're lucky enough to have a lot of really good painters in the area. There's Adam from Relief Terrain. He's actually local. He's 2 blocks away.
And Adam's amazing.
Adam's a great guy who is a fantastic painter. Makes most of our terrain, like 90% of our terrain comes from Adam from Relief Terrain.
Yeah, or is at least, bought somewhere and then goes through him to get a final paint job.
Yep.
Because
that's true.
The work he does is, again, you hear his name so much on our channel because of how good his stuff
everything.
is.
So, I mean, if you walk in our basement and look at all the miniatures we have, it's all painted by assortment of commission studios, local people. There's so many miniatures down there. Not one person painted them all, obviously. We have to use anybody we can. When new stuff comes in, we can't just drop. I can't stop making a bat rep to go paint ogres because new ogre book came out, so we have to find somebody locally who can get it done real fast, pay him up, get the miniatures going,
or just happen to have Josh on hand
or have somebody who has it already.
But when we're not that lucky.
But the Bone Reapers, for example,
exactly.
I don't even know who painted our Bone Reapers.
Yeah.
Adam did. Oh, okay. Yeah, new stuff come out. We gotta get them painted.
Are we talking about those models, or are we just gonna let that pass?
It's fine.
I like some of them.
Some of them, yes.
Some of them are interesting.
So besides Matt and Dave, is there anybody who is like an anti-hobby aspect of the game?
I don't think so.
I don't think so at all.
Everybody
does like Luca paint, for example? I know Vito paints.
So Luca doesn't like to, but Luca paints.
Yeah. So
Luca's working on the project with you.
So Luca and I are actually working on a project right now. We decided that together we are going to buy, build, and paint an Iron Hands army for $40,000 and play a few games with it and sell it off and see if it's profitable.
When did y'all plan to do that?
Well, I should have been done, but this is one of those 2 projects I was talking about earlier. The project should be done within the next couple of days.
Okay, cool.
Neat.
It's a shame what happened to him though.
What? It's not that bad. They're still overpowered.
Okay, cool.
Too strong.
Too strong.
But and even Josh, who doesn't paint, is a big builder.
Josh is the first one to offer to assemble miniatures for me.
Yeah.
If I need something like personal stuff done, he'll assemble them for me. I hate assembling.
Because I know you're not assembling. I hate assembling things. I don't know if Vito enjoys it, but
he doesn't like it either.
I think that you either like one or the other better.
I agree 100%. That's what we see over and over again.
Yeah.
Luke and Josh like to assemble. Everybody else wants to paint.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's the worst.
I love buying built models.
Well, you just co-op kid. Like, hey, Jackson, here's some money. Assemble this for me. Don't use too much glue.
I think I'd rather assemble than paint.
Oh, no.
Because I'm also, I guess, now do you find that you're also a converter then as well?
It depends. If it's orcs, like 40K orcs, then yeah,
Yep.
I'll do some converting. But mostly, if I'm going to do anything, it'll just be some kit bashing.
Okay.
But most of the time, I like what GW did with most of the models, so I like to keep them pretty uniform.
Yeah, I don't convert. I don't kit bash. I paint box colors. Like, I'm not an artist.
Yeah, I leave the sculpting to the professionals.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lee was the big converter for you guys, right? He did some amazing stuff.
Lee had some skills.
Oh, some of the stuff he was able to pull off was.
I know, like his Thunderhawk. There's a lot of things he would build that were like, you weren't quite sure.
Honestly, it was a fun thing to not see a project he was working on until it was painted, merely to try to figure out what he used.
Well, the fantastic thing is too. The thing about Lee is, if you broke or lost a bit that you couldn't replace, he would just make it for you.
Oh yeah.
He could just do that. He had that skill.
You're like, there was a book here. Do you have another book? And
Like-
you'd ask, so like, you won't have it. And he'd be like, yeah, I found this thing from this one Zeech thing, and I shaved off these 4 pieces, and here you go.
Like he wouldn't sculpt anything. He would just take a bunch of other pieces of plastic and glue them together, and it would work all the time. Though Vito's shown some promising skill with his conversions.
Oh,
With that thing on his desk right now.
man. I don't want to talk about that because I'm sure that thing's going to be announced at some point. But
Yeah, there's a video coming up for the holidays. He converted up some special stuff for. It'll be interesting.
Ooh.
So here's a question as it relates to your Kickstarter.
Hmm.
So once this Kickstarter is funded and you actually start to put out your content, which I think is going to run for a year, I think, is that
6
right?
months. 6 months.
6 months.
it's 24 videos.
What's going to happen after 6 months?
Okay, so that's okay. I don't know, but with the Games Workshop announcement, the obvious growth of the community in the area, and the clear desire for the community to want Warhammer Fantasy Battles, I think it's safe to say we can probably get it back on MiniWarGaming. I don't know how regular.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch a lot of MiniWarGaming videos. I'm a Vault subscriber.
Awesome. Thank you for the support.
Hey, anytime. Happy to do it. I have more than gotten my value out of that thing over the past
Oh, that's
5
good.
years. The Matt's last video, and I was going through the comments on it, and there were a lot of people talking about how they canceled their subscriptions because there wasn't any more fantasy content. Now, I don't know what the behind-the-scenes numbers are, and I don't really care to know. But it seems like if you guys have a rejuvenation or a renaissance of new Warhammer Fantasy players, and it's not 2 content producers making bat reps, there might be, some space for you guys to do it.
That's you touched on a couple of things there, but the whole 2 content producers thing might actually be the future, but we'll let that sort itself out with MiniWarGaming as it goes. You know what, I think it's okay to say that we're looking into doing more of that here at MiniWarGaming. More content producer bat reps. I know previously we talked about like the cost involved, but there are upsides that we're looking into now. What was the first part of that question? Oh, fantasy. Okay, yeah. You also mentioned that a lot of people said they were going to cancel because of it. Now, this sounds harsh to those guys, but we didn't really see it because of the AOS people signing up to fill the hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have enough. I think there's room for both.
Oh yeah, I would say there is.
It's just a matter of back then, I was the only one doing fantasy. Luca wasn't here at the time.
No, he was.
Was he here?
It was literally just you two though.
Okay.
That was after I went back to school and.
So yeah, I'm hesitant to say like this is what MiniWarGaming is going to do, but I mean we all love it so much, and I think we've shown that it can be profitable. I mean, look, if we're not profitable, if we don't make videos that people want to pay for, then we can't make any videos. We're not here.
Right.
And I think we're gonna try to bring it back slowly. Either way, in 3 years it's gonna be back apparently, right?
In some way, shape, or form.
There's no way we're not gonna cover it when that comes out.
Yeah.
As long as people want to see it, as long as people want to sign up for the vault for those bat reps, we will make them. And okay, fantasy was, even when we decided to end it, it was still making money.
Yeah.
We just had to make a decision about resources, right? One game had a dying community and no support. One game had a growing community and support. And we decided to put our resources into that one.
Makes sense.
The 3 of us weren't happy,
Nope.
but we understood the decision.
Right.
We were mad, like we get it.
It sucked.
I
but
wonder.
mean,
I maybe we made the whatever. Who cares? We get to play fantasy still.
Again,
Well-
if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be doing the Kickstarter. We wouldn't be where we're
True.
at.
True. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Because I'll tell you that Warhammer announcement was terrifying. With what does that mean for our Kickstarter?
It's like, please don't come out next month. Please don't come out next month. Please don't come out next month.
What would it take to get Matt to play a game of fantasy?
Not gonna
Oh,
happen.
I don't think you're gonna see that.
Never gonna happen.
That's your level 4 stretch goal.
I don't know. I could call it a favor. He owes me plenty. No, I would never force him to. He doesn't like it. Now, let me explain why, though. I get it. It's not his fault. His experience with fantasy was basically 7th edition Tomb Kings against Techless.
Constantly.
7th edition Techless.
Ugh.
Like, we had a community here at the time that was very
Power game.
power gaming, very dirty. That it was just the same old, like, here's how I beat you really fast. Here's Purple Sun. And like, that's not fun. And he didn't have fun, and now he's got that bad taste in his mouth. Yeah. But look at, I don't want everybody to love every game. Like what you like, play what you like, and we'll find people who really love fantasy. It's just not him, unfortunately.
But we do still have his Tomb Kings army on square basis.
That's true. We do have that army still.
Well, it sounds like, Steve, maybe you need to take control of the Desert Legion and see what you can do with it.
So that's actually not going to happen because Jackson, our co-op kid, who's one of the kids who are in the area who are getting into fantasy hard, he painted up 2,500 points of Dark Elves already, and now he's working on his own Tomb King army. I told him, like, you're taking the best of the best and the worst of the worst. God bless you. So he's going to be our Tomb King player.
Very good.
We will have Tomb King
I think Lucas said he's going to dabble in them a little bit as well.
Well, Lucas will play anything.
He loves his undead.
Is there any plan for a fantasy campaign of any kind?
No. I'm not saying we wouldn't do it. There's no plans right now. They take a lot of work.
I think if this is like your job and monetary is obviously a part of your business, obviously because it's a job, but I don't think campaigns will get as big of a following as just random battle reports. I love campaigns, don't get me wrong.
Okay, so I'll share a little bit of numbers with you. A battle report will get significantly more reviews than a campaign. A campaign will get significantly more revenue than a battle rep. It's not even close. Like, even the Warhammer Fantasy campaign, like it was called Heroes of Hornheim, yeah. The views were slightly less than a regular views, but the revenue brought in was significantly higher. But the amount of work that goes in is significantly higher too. It actually is more profitable. It's just that from a company standpoint, we could take a bunch. This is where it always comes down to too, right? Let's say Luca's to run the campaign. Right? You have Luca take time to write and prepare the campaign for Warhammer Fantasy, and it'll make a lot more money than Fantasy does. Or he's gonna take the exact same time and do it for Warhammer 40K, and get 3, 4, 5 times the money.
Yeah.
And if we're not profitable, we don't exist at all.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, people get invested in the campaign and they watch every minute of it, whereas if it's just a regular bat rip off the street, people will watch 15 minutes of it. If they don't,
Yep.
care what's going on, they'll flip over. That makes sense. Oh, yeah. That is the end of the community questions. Is there anything else that you want to say about the Kickstarter?
No, actually, so it's up till this Saturday. What's that date anyway?
The 7th?
Is it the 7th?
No, I'm wrong.
It's the 30th.
Oh, it's the 30th. Okay.
Yeah, so it is almost done. I mean, we've already raised way more money than we expected. Really didn't expect this kind of reception, though super happy that we did. Any kind of support you want to throw to the Kickstarter before the 30th is great. Anybody can tell about it is fantastic. Though if we get not one more dollar, we will produce a whole bunch of Warhammer Fantasy bat reps.
We are already committed to doing our 24 games. We've got 3 or 4 filmed already.
These guys want to film a bunch. Or, I mean, hold on, guys, we're not ready to start filming yet.
Yeah,
everyone's to go film.
Setting one of our goals to being the point level was probably an oversight by us.
Yep.
But so here we are, just making 2,400 points, hoping we hit that point anyway.
Yeah, we filmed a bunch already, but they're all at 24 points. In anticipation that we hit that last marker.
Speaking as somebody who has filmed and edited both 2,000 point and 2,500 point games, 2,000 points is much more manageable.
For sure. I mean,
but less fun to play.
Oh, it's arguable. I love the lower point. I don't like to go less than 2,000, but I love the 2,000 point mark. Anything less is too little though.
I like them both for their varying different reasons, but you can definitely feel the difference of the extra 400 points.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
And it is also very more taxing on your armies, especially when you're doing battle reports where you're trying to add the variance to the armies.
I just for some reason, an extra 400 points adds
it gives you everything you want.
50%. Well, adds 50% more game time somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the only thing I dislike about higher points is more hordes on the field.
Yeah.
And then magic obviously usually becomes more devastating because then you might even have 2 level 4s or something just being ridiculous. True. But that's why I like 3,000 points. But if you at least speak to your opponent like, hey, only 1 level 4, you know, because whenever Kyle and I play, we never use the, you know, like the level 6 spell. We will never almost ever cast Dwellers, or we'll never cast Purple Sun
those
because
are the problem spells.
Yeah, it's not fun to play against when, you know, a third of your points just gets wiped off the field in one phase like that. So
try this: make a 2,000 point list, and then add 1,000 points of core on top of that. Play that game. That's a fun game.
That's a very fun game.
That sounds amazing.
Hey Kyle, we're doing that next.
I'm telling you, like that's a movement game, and every unit matters at that point, and flanking will come into play. Like that's a good game.
It gives more opportunity for terrain to start coming into play as well.
Yeah, terrain's a rough one, isn't
it? Maybe a 2,000 point army, and then you reach your lords and heroes to that 25 and initial percent. And then
make core 50%.
Conceivably. Or just open up the rest of it so that you can spend it on rares or specials, so you get to take the stuff you don't normally take because you're, limited by your points.
Sounds like a Beastman player that's going to bring more core.
Well, I mean, I'm going to bring more core anyway.
Your Gorgon, your Sigor is overpriced anyway.
That's so true.
You can't get decent rare at 2,000 points.
I mean, even my giant is more expensive than a chaos giant.
Giants are so bad. I can't wait to bring 2 of my Orcs and Goblins list.
Well, let me just tell you.
Oh yeah.
Wait until our next bat rep.
Really?
Oh boy.
Did you make it work?
I mean, you can go ahead and say it. It'll be out before. Well, you can go ahead.
That's true. That's true. So we played. What did we play? 2,500 points.
Yes.
I played High Elves. Blue played Dark Elves. We got all set up, and then we were like, you know what? Let's spice this up, and we put a independent giant on the field that just kind of marauded around.
Oh my goodness.
No. And it came in on a random board edge, and every turn we rolled off to see who could control it, and that giant definitely ended up with some elves in its pants. I'll just leave it at that.
I forgot about that.
See, I'm excited to see how that proceeds because we've done hundreds of bat reps and they're always the same old basic scenario. How much off the rails can we go?
Oh yeah, because that's something.
That's what we would do if we were just playing, right?
Yeah, no, I'm very much down to try that if you are. Once you get a giant painted up.
The random monsters.
Even still to this day, one of my favorite games I've ever played was the time that Luca and I made each other's lists, and we made them as bad as physically possible.
I couldn't watch it the whole
game.
This is garbage. What are you guys doing?
That was the greatest garbage fire I've ever created. It made me so happy.
That's just fun. Or even if you build list and then when you're setting up, you're like, you know what? Let's play each other's army. Like, I'm gonna play yours, you play mine.
Yeah. Just throw everything off completely, right?
Yeah, that's just fun. It adds flavor to it. It makes it more entertaining. It's just fun. That's
fun because I mean, somebody builds a list with their playstyle in mind. All of a sudden, somebody else to take control of it. It doesn't work quite the same way.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah, when you walk by a table and you see like, oh, that person's playing my army. Why is he bringing that?
You're using your eagle wrong.
One of the I think one of the advantages that Age of Sigmar has compared to Fantasy is the number of scenarios that you get to play. And granted, some of them suck and are lousy and super slanted towards one thing or the other. But you can take those 6 base scenarios out of the 8th edition rulebook, and you can play with them, and you can add random stuff that just happens, and you can make those really fun. Except maybe for Blood and Glory. Blood and Glory, you kind of have to just play Blood and Glory.
I don't know how often, when you guys roll your scenario, how often does Watchtower come up, and how often do you roll it?
I think we rolled it once and we were like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes up like 50% of the time for us.
Yeah, I swear, you're just like, everything except for Watch, and it's Watchtower. And of
It's
course
those.
it is.
Do you roll Chessex dice? Is that what you roll?
Yes, I believe we
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
There you go. That'll do it.
that's how I win.
Don't give away Steve's.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just roll
Secret.
really well.
See, the Watchtower, it can be fun. I remember I played a local guy, and he was playing Dark Elves, and I think I was playing Ogres, and we had a really fun Watchtower battle. But the problem is, if you just sit like a nasty horde and you just run up to that tower turn 1, you're just in it, and it's so hard to knock someone out of it. Because if I'm not mistaken, you're stubborn when you're controlling the Watchtower.
So basically, the Watchtower scenario, and it is not a hard and fast rule, but whoever rolls to control the Watchtower lost the game. Because he has to put a core unit of 20 or less, and then turn 1 they're going to get charged out of it, or the other guy gets to move first and get into it first with his horde. So if you play Watchtower, you roll who controls it. If you control it, you probably lost the game. Roll again. Next time.
And I always found it was kind of slanted to those armies that had better infantry as well.
It doesn't work under 8th edition rules. A lot of things just kind of hamper it. Too many miniatures. Yeah. It was a better scenario when armies are much smaller. Play Watchtower at 1,000 points. Different game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
100%.
True. Well, no, because then a character might. Well, either way. I think a cool, if we were talking about changing up battle reports, even just limiting every unit no unit can be over 500 points. So you can't have 1,000 points into a bunker.
With characters, including characters.
No, I think maybe not character, but you might be able to finagle something and figure something out. But
I mean,
maybe 500 points max, or even 350 points max for like a unit.
I like 350 because 500 you can make a dirty unit for almost any army.
Right. Okay. So set it so it's 350 points max. The only units that can really get hordes are maybe like some Empire or Skaven, maybe Skinks or something like that. But nothing that's you can't have a horde you can't have an ogre bus. You can't have 40 Chaos Warriors.
With the Razor Standard.
Yeah, you can't have any of that junk.
Those
and
are
that
all
would
the
make
things
it
that
so
really-
it's more, it's more like 7th edition where you have a lot of smaller units and stuff.
Well, this is Games Workshop mistake of trying to sell more models to their existing clientele other than trying to find more people playing the game, right?
Yeah.
This guy owned 20 Chaos Warriors, make him go buy 20 more.
Yep.
It's just a mistake.
Because and even to this day, I still feel it every time I look at something. I'm like, I want to paint this up, but I could always just use 20 more clan rats / slaves.
Yeah.
And no matter every time I think about it, like even thinking about painting up a dwarf army, it's like, yeah, I could do that, but I could also use more slaves.
I remember 20 years ago, if I had more than 15 elves in a unit, I'm like, it's a horde. What are you doing? That's ridiculous. So many points.
Yeah.
Now, 40 or 50, it's ridiculous. It's too much.
Mm-hmm. So Kyle, what's our next bat rep? What are we gonna do? We're gonna build each other's lists. I think that'd be funny.
Do it.
You should.
Oh man.
I'm gonna make you play Tomb Kings, and you don't get any magic.
Oh
Yes!
no!
Yes!
That's actually no.
You know what? I'm gonna make you play Beastmen, and you can't use Gores.
Ew.
Oh no.
That doesn't sound that bad. I'm okay with that.
No, it'll be bad. I promise you.
I have never played
Your
Beastmen.
core is gonna be chariots and ungors.
That's also
Good luck.
I'll take that
Good
challenge.
luck.
I accept.
The chariots aren't that terrible, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad.
Um,
Chariots or core is pretty good, if you ask me.
I will take all of the screaming skull catapults that I can fit.
Jeez.
Actually, you know what? If you guys have watched my Beastman bat reps, you will know where I'm going with this. You can play any rendition of a Beastman army you want, but you can't take a BSB.
What do you mean?
Huh?
You can't take a BSB.
And that's the unit that I'm excluding from your
Oh
army.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, what's your average? What's the hero level character's leadership? Is it 7 or 8?
7.
Yeah, okay. You don't give him a lord. You give him a general leadership 7. No
Yep.
BSB. You not yeah.
Yeah.
GG.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know who's gonna hold on. Okay, an army that can't move, or an army you can't actually do anything.
Do
else.
anything with you? Approach them, you run away.
Okay, I want to watch that. No, you know what? No, you know what? Tomb Kings win. Because it's fair.
Boo! Ah!
Yeah.
Honestly, that scenario can't happen, Blue, because Tomb Kings have to take a Hierophant. So there's going to be some magic.
True.
Bummer.
You will start the game. You immediately start crumbling.
Sounds like I've got the advantage.
Dang it.
All right, 1 Hierophant, 1 BSB. It's still garbage.
It would make for an entertaining bat rep, to say the least.
Here, just use Gores, but with shields.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm fine with that. All the parry saves. I got this.
I don't know. See, that's the thing I'm struggling with. For my AOS Gores, I have shields on them. I'm like, oh, I can't use these in fantasy. It's a dumb loadout.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, do they even get light armor?
No.
It's just extra hand weapon or shields.
My
With
goodness.
potential, no.
The only thing that Beastmen have going for them is that their base weapon skill is generally 4 and their toughness 4. And they
That's
have
what I like. Was it in 7th edition when they could take marks of chaos?
7th and end times.
Yeah, do you play end times?
No, not 7th, 6th and end times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because
When
the
you play
7th
with
edition,
7th edition book.
7th edition
Yeah.
book is what we have.
So they did Warhammer's Armies project. They definitely gave them the marks back, which was cool.
Yes. And let me just tell you, Bestigors with the Mark of Nurgle, which in that book gives them +1 toughness, is amazing.
Yeah, toughness 5. It's
Oh yeah.
really good. No, we don't play end times over here.
Well, if I were to play Beasts of Chaos now in fantasy, I would play what's that? Hordes of Chaos, Legions of Chaos, whatever they're called, and just purely play the Beasts of Chaos, but give my Ungors the Mark of Slanesh, just so you have some chaff that wouldn't run away immediately.
Yeah.
That is probably their biggest weakness, other than everything.
All right. Well, yeah, that's what. Maybe not the next one, Blue, but in the near future we will do that.
Yeah.
You make my army, and I'll make yours, and we'll see what happens.
That'd be fun. I'm down.
But that being said, we are coming up on an hour and 45 minutes of this recording. Any last minute statements or questions that anybody wants to ask before we shut it down for the night?
I don't know. I hope we see you guys at Adepticon, and I'll see you up in Welland sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, getting to meet you guys in person would be super cool.
I've been telling Steve for 2 years now that I'm coming up to Welland at some point in time.
Everybody says it. Let's see you do it.
I know.
I think meeting in Adepticon would be pretty cool. We should definitely set that up.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks guys for hopping on and hanging out with us for a couple of hours.
A lot of fun.
No, this has been a blast, and yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Anytime you guys want to come talk about fantasy, we're here.
And I'm glad we were prepared.
That's right.
We were.